What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Thank y'all for tuning in to the Vibe Show. This is the Vibe Show. So y'all make sure that y'all subscribe and donate to support the channel. And without further ado, the Vibe Show. What's going on, everybody? Thank y'all for watching the Vibe Show. I am Bashan Mosley, the host of the Vibe Show. And today we got a special guest in the building, a producer, a hot producer named Slayer. What's going on, Slayer?
What's good? How are you?
Good, man. Good. So tell the people out there, man, like where you was born, where you grew up, a little bit of your background.
I'm from Pensacola, Florida, and
Okay.
so I went to school out there, and then went to school in Mississippi for a little bit after I graduated high school. I went to college in Mississippi for a while, and then came back to Florida, and then worked a little bit back in the Panhandle, and then I just recently, back in 2018, moved out here to Jacksonville. So been over here for almost 4 years now.
Okay. Now, how does it feel being on this end, then being on the golf end?
I think that the music scene out here is much better. I think there's a lot of great artists out here. I think that there's a lot of great things going on in the music scene, and that was one of the things I was most excited to get into whenever I decided to move out here. So, I mean, there's a great music scene in Pensacola and the Gulf Coast area, but I think for the genre that I'm into, and then all the things that I like to do, and going out and being a part of a scene, there's a lot of great stuff going on in Jacksonville.
Yeah, no, definitely. All right, man. Well, let's get to the music, man. So, you're a producer. So tell us about that. Like, what inspired you to get into making music, and what kind of made you want to focus on this?
So whenever I was in high school, I was a part of the music program, and that really had a big impact on me. And a good friend of mine who I still produce with and went to high school with, we decided when we were in high school to start producing. And we did that for 3 or 4 years and worked with some local artists while we were still in Pensacola. And then going to school, we both went to school for music. And that's when we went to Mississippi. And then we kind of went our separate ways for a little while. And then we started working. We both are teachers, actually. And so we both teach music. And so we stepped away from production to focus on that and sharpen our craft in that area. And then when I finally moved out here, whenever the pandemic hit, I was sitting around the house like everybody else was. And then, I got him on the phone and I said, what if we pick up where we left off back in 2007, 2008, and revitalize those and get better, because we felt like we were sharper as musicians now, and we had nothing but time. So we jumped back into it back in 2020, and really been hitting it hard for the last year and a half, and it's really been taking off, and we've been sharpening our skills and trying to get in contact with more artists and everything. So it's been going well, but it's been a fun time to expand our abilities as musicians and engineers and producers. So
all right. Now, when you first jumped back into it, now did you have a focus? Like, were you saying, well, let me make some beats and kind of really kind of collaborate with a lot of independent artists, or were you saying, well, let me try to get these beats to some of the bigger artists, or find somebody that can give them my music to more of the bigger artists?
I think that when I first started, I didn't realize how much I was jumping in. Like I thought that I started making some stuff again during the pandemic, and I was just thinking, oh, this is kind of fun. I had an iPad and I was doing like the mobile type production. I wasn't doing anything on a computer.
Yeah.
And that's when the idea hit. And then when I started to jump in, and we realized that A, there's a lot of stuff we need to learn that we didn't learn back when we were in high school, and B, we could really do something. When I talked to him, I said, maybe, we really wanted to focus on local and independent artists. I felt like there's a lot of unheard music and unheard talent in that area. I mean, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to send my music to Lil Baby or Drake or whoever. But there are more artists out there doing and saying a lot more that is not heard in the local area. Versus those artists. I mean, not to say that we wouldn't love to work with those artists, or great, well-known artists, but we want to get with the next Drake and the next Lil Baby and the next whoever, the person who's hot and coming up, who can create a vibe and a buzz and continue to show that this area has some great talent that needs to be heard.
No, definitely. Now, let me ask you a question. Since you are a producer, it's cool to, make a beat, sell a beat, help out an independent artist. But let's say an independent artist came back to you and was asking you, hey, maybe could we make this whole, maybe could we make this whole production together? What would you be willing to get in the studio with an independent artist and almost executive produce this project?
Oh yeah, I think that would be great. I think that while it's nice to send a beat out or a beat pack and then somebody picks and chooses from different artists, I think that I would excel in the area of being able to taper everything to the artist's needs and like bring out the best in that performer. And then, then we can really get to the details instead of saying, here's a predetermined beat, and then they have to go to whatever I sent, versus being in the studio and being able to collaborate together and work together to mold it to be exactly what, their vision is and what my vision is together. I think that would be preferred. And then have an overall sound for a project instead of just, going down an assembly or, like a la carte, picking a beat from this producer and that producer, and then, trying to make it to come together. I think that putting a whole project would be not only a fun, activity, but it would be the best way to get the overall quality to come together with all the details.
No, definitely. So now when you come to, I don't want you to give away your secrets, but how do you approach beat making?
Well, as a classically trained musician, sometimes people start with like a loop and then put some drums with it, and then maybe they go through that loop and they manipulate it however to fit their beat. But making the melodies and things like that is usually what I start with. Okay. And then I use loops as well. I don't think there's anything wrong with using loops. Some people say it's one's better than the other, but I think whatever is good music is all that matters. So. But I usually start with a melody or some chords, and then from there I build it out. The drums are usually the last thing because they're probably the easiest thing for me. Yeah. The melody is the most important thing to me, though. So that's usually how I start. So it's usually with some chords, and then I'll pick out a melody. But when I sit down, truthfully, sometimes people have something in their head. I don't have anything in my head when I sit down. If I try to make an idea that's in my head, I usually mess it up. So for me, it's almost better to just sit down and just make whatever comes out.
Awesome. Now I'm glad you brought up loops. Now it's that loop thing is very tricky nowadays because folks are feeling like now you say you still collaborate with your friend. Now do y'all build out your own loops, or are you not scared to use other loops out there for your projects? I mean, when I say scared, meaning that are they royalty free loops?
Oh, no, not at all. I mean, there's been times where, if it's fire, it's fire. Like if it's royalty free, we'll be glad to use a loop back from here or there. I don't usually go searching for loops very often, but sometimes when I sit down, if I don't feel like anything's coming out that sounds great, then I'll go check out some loops. There's another local producer here by the name of G Money Beats, and he is 17 years old, but he's absolutely a monster, and he makes loops every week, and so. There might be times where I might hit him up and say, hey, send me something good. And then, I use that, and that not only helps me, but it helps him. You know what I mean? So we're both coming up together now. And there's been times where he's put together some loop packs with other producers, and he's asked me, hey, send me some loops. And I usually don't make loops a lot, but, because I'm not afraid to make some melodies, I'll sit down and cook some stuff up and I'll send it to him. And then, that's going to help me and it's going to help him with the projects that he's working on. So,
Awesome. So you one of those producers that you don't mind you don't mind splitting the publishing depending on who you're working with.
Oh no, not at all. I mean, as long as who I'm working with is going to do good business and going to be upfront, and then forthcoming with just trying to do right by another person, it doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? If I get too caught up in worrying about just me and then trying to do it all on my own, not only am I going to wear myself out and get burnt out faster, but I'm not doing it to get rich. You know what I mean? I'm doing it to make good music and to leave something whenever my final days come, I left something good behind that people can listen to.
Definitely. Now I'm glad you brought that up. not so much with the getting rich, but we could talk about that. But I know in the past I've heard a lot of people say about producers that a lot of producers are um let's just say a lot of producers don't like to be up front. Now, how do you feel about that? Well, a lot of producers they like to make music, but they don't want to be in front of the camera and in front of the video camera. They don't really like to show their face. How you feel about that?
Well, it's funny you say that. I truthfully, whenever I started, that was me. I mean, I didn't want to be seen. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I just wanted to do the music. I want the artist to be, you know, the face of the music because, I, as much as I love making beats and some people love listening to just beats, without an artist, what I make doesn't come to life completely until they add their part.
Yeah.
So to me, I wanted them to be the face of it. But in order to be successful now, people want to see you, they want to see, the producer behind who's making all the hot tracks. So, that's why you see, people blowing up on YouTube and Instagram because, the producer is getting on camera more and showing their personality and who they are. And people, buy into that more than just listening to the music without having a face and a person to attach it to. So I am really pushing myself to do that more than I have in the last year or so. And it's paying off and it's helping. And, it's something I got to continue to grow at as, just a business person, an entrepreneur, because that's what I am, at this point. So,
Yeah. That's good. Now, so at this point, you feel like you have no problems putting. Let's say it's just you have no problem putting the camera on yourself and filming yourself while you do a production.
no, I don't think so. And that being said, that's actually something that I've been starting to get set up on my own so that I could start to do some live cookups and have those on Twitch or YouTube or wherever, just so that people can kind of see my process. And I'm not saying that my process is better than anybody else's, but sometimes people connect more with how this person does something versus that person, and also just to kind of get to know me as well, and kind of get to know who I am. And I think it makes it easier when you stream that way because you can interact with some of your your followers or your watchers, and then that makes it easier to me. It's hard to just perform in front of a camera when you're recording. I think everybody feels a little awkward, especially at first. But when I have somebody to interact with and play off of, that makes it 10 times better.
Awesome. Now, when it comes to production, do you have because I know you said that you don't never have nothing in mind, but do you ever think about a artist, old or new, and you say, I want this sound to kind of sound like that, or does it matter?
I think when these days, I will listen to some artists to try to get a sound in my head. Like, a year ago, I was really listening to the music from like Pop Smoke, and I really loved his sound. I think he was a fantastic artist, but that darker drill sound, which is not, he doesn't do drill all the time, but I really loved that sound. So I wanted to focus in on that so I could try to do that as just expanding my techniques. When I was much younger, I used to love like Manny Fresh, and I don't know, a lot of people listen to him today, but I thought he was like the best, whenever he came out with everything that he made in 2000s. And I thought his beats were amazing. I thought Scott Storch, who was big then, and he's still big now, but I thought that he made some of the best type, melodic beats, because some people like maybe a Pharrell or somebody else, they make a little bit more drum heavy, or Timberland. But I think that the melodic stuff I connected with more because it just had a lot more textures and layers. So those types of producers would be the ones that I'd kind of listen to see, what they do. Like the producer who, I can't remember his name, but he produces a lot for NF. He makes a lot of like cinematic, just real intense musical productions for, that artist. And I really enjoy that type of stuff. So if I did try to channel somebody, sometimes I listen to those types of things, but I also just try to put on artists that I've never heard before and just take in what they have going on. And then, the more you listen to and the bigger variety, that's going to eventually come out in some type of way as an influence on what you do. So I think the more that I listen to, the more diversified I am with what I can put out.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, so are you heavy into type beats, or do you just Like when you are actually because I guess we can skip right to this. When you are promoting your beats, do you do type beats mainly, or how do you like? What's your caption on your beats when you try to promote?
Well, it's kind of when I first started, I thought, okay, I don't want to get into type beats because you know I don't know who I sound like. You know what I mean? I just thought I didn't have an artist in mind when I made those things. So, you know, if somebody else listened to it and thought, oh, that sounds like, you know, this type beat or that type beat, then great. But I didn't have that intention. But I feel like as more of a strategy, I am trying to kind of step into that realm now and, you know, listen to an artist and then kind of put together an idea of what their catalog sounds like so that I can make something and gear it towards that artist, whether that's Polo G or Pooh Shiesty or, you know, whoever.
Yeah.
And it's more of a business strategy than it is, you know, a creative decision, because I feel like if I'm trying to make beats just like, you know, whoever, you know, Moneybagg or whoever else, I feel like that kind of limits me creatively. But I also have to keep in mind that if you want to blow up on YouTube or Instagram, sometimes you got to kind of make a decision for, you know, the business part of it and the promotional part. So the strategies that I've heard online for people who've talked about producing and making type beats is you got to find one or two artists,
Yeah.
and then just go down that rabbit hole and then hope for the best. And hopefully it's a younger artist, like, you know, Rod Wave blew up recently, you know, in the last, you know, year and a half or so. Like whenever people were jumping on him before he was too, you know, real big,
Yeah.
they blew up with him. So that it's finding that next artist. And that's another reason why I'm about young independent artists, because, you know, the making music with them, I mean, that could blow up and that could be the next type beat that everybody wants to listen to.
I agree. I agree. You know, I think a lot of people do forget that, especially in places like Atlanta. I mean, a lot of people forget that these regular dudes before they got the way they are, you know? And
Yeah,
just like you're
absolutely.
a regular person, if you're a rapper or artist coming up, you know, so a lot of people they see you at the top of the mountain, but they don't realize you had to climb to get there. That's definitely good that you know what I mean, that you like to work with them independent artists and really, you know, really help them out. Now let me ask you a question. When it comes to switching over to the latest side, now are you do you do you work, have you ever worked with a lot with women artists, or do you make a lot of R&B beats?
Um, you know, me and my partner, we're, I'd like to think that we're pretty good at the R&B stuff, but
Uh-huh.
because that stuff is not as, uh, I don't think that right now with the majority of what we make is R&B.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of like on like a, you know, maybe if we're in a situation in a studio, or if an artist requests something, or maybe we're
Okay.
just happen to be in a certain type of mood, we might make that. But that's usually more of the exception than what we
So
usually do. But I mean,
but by request, y'all can cook up something.
oh yeah, absolutely. We get people just ask, we, you know, make something based off of, you know, somebody hit us up a year ago and said, can you make something off of, you know, a Boyz II Men song? You know, they
Yeah.
sent us a song and we said, yeah, we could do that. Or, you know, make something with a sample or whatever. And so we could do those things too, the custom beats. But as far as women artists, we sent some beats to someone recently that was more of like a city girls type vibe.
Okay.
But and I haven't worked with, you know, we haven't worked with a lot of singers
Yeah.
in that way, just, you know, female rappers more so. But that'd be something we'd like to do, because I think that, you know, creating a melodic track and then, you know, helping get the vocals right and adding harmonies and things like that and making something, you know, with rich musical texture is going to be, you know, is fulfilling for us, because we also have that higher level knowledge, you know, musically. So, but we haven't had a lot of opportunities yet. So, you know, but
No problem.
hopefully
No
in the
problem.
future.
I'm sure y'all will get there. So that's no problem. And you're doing good right now. Now let me ask you a question. When it comes to you promoting yourself, like, do you feel like are you say you just starting, or do you feel like what's your route you feel like just for promoting your brand? Like what route you feel like you want to take to promote your brand?
Well, right now, I felt like when you first start, you have to kind of establish a brand and an
Mhm.
identity. And for the last year or so, we were not only trying to get that musical footprint and brand established, but kind of a visual as well, so that we could be consistent whenever you see something online. Oh, that's something from Beat Machine Productions, and so we've been working on that, and it's a lot to manage. I mean, when you think about, I didn't realize how much it was, how much it was to juggle when it comes to, you got to have an Instagram, and then you got to have SoundCloud, and then you got to have a website, and then you got to have YouTube, and then you got to have a Facebook page, and then you got to post content to these things regularly, and then you got to create graphics or have somebody create graphics. I mean, it's a lot. It's a full-time job, it feels like, and then you got to create the music in between all of that. So
on top of all of that,
yeah, so we're trying to get more consistent in all of that. We post regularly to just about all of our platforms. And we got our website up about a year ago, and we're pretty happy with how that looks right now. But I think the next step, as I mentioned earlier, was to kind of create more content for, instead of just posting type beats, we also want to create content for other producers. Yeah. And, that's why I mentioned that, we're going to start kind of streaming ourselves in the process of making beats, so that other producers can kind of buy into that. And that will help, just diversify what we put out, so that it's not just for artists only. It could be, we have artists content, and then we also have producer content. Okay.
Well, let me ask you a question. For up and coming producers, who do you think, far as a performing rights organization, who you think that they better to go with, BMI or ASCAP?
We went with BMI, and I don't think that, I just based on the paperwork and the process and what they do, I guess you'd have to kind of look into the details, but all the people that I know went with BMI. So I'm with
BMI too. I love BMI. Everybody I know with ASCAP they have an issue with ASCAP, definitely when it comes to getting paid.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So we haven't experienced that type of issue, but with BMI it was just quicker to get customer service and everything that we needed. So that's where we ended up. So it's been good so far. And then of course we're with BeatStars, and BeatStars has deals with Sony and all this other stuff going on, so that they're really stepping into that market as well. So even artists or producers can really look into BeatStars for publishing and distribution now. BeatStars also does that too. So if you're trying to distribute your music, BeatStars is the way to go for a lot of people too.
Now let me ask you a question, since you brought that up. As a producer, do you distribute some of your own stuff, or you just solely keep it for purchase, or do you distribute some of your own stuff?
Actually, we just distributed some stuff back the beginning of summer, I think, and we decided to do that because some people just like listening to beat tapes. Yeah. So we put out 2 different beat tapes just to kind of see, go through the process for the first time on our own versus an artist doing it with something that we've made. So yeah, we did do that, and I think we'll probably start to do that regularly every few months. Just put out some stuff to be heard, and that's just another way to generate a little bit of revenue, but also to be heard. Somebody might hear something on Apple Music or Spotify or whatever they listen to it on, and that could be a way we connect to other artists, or even a fan base who just likes what we do. And so just another platform to be heard on.
That's awesome. Now I'm gonna go real back to something that you said earlier about the sampling. How often do you sample?
Not a lot. That's usually by request. I think if I ever sat down, one time I think it was a Manny Fresh quote, actually. He said, "I want to make music for the future generation to sample." Yeah. And that kind of resonated with me, because I feel like if I take a sample, I've tried it before when I was younger, especially, and I usually messed it up more than anything. Yeah. But there's been a couple of times where I made some samples and I thought it really came out great. But I think that the technology is better now, and my understanding of how to manipulate samples is better now. So I think I have more confidence that I could do samples now. But I think that sometimes, unless I'm going for a very specific vibe, it's freer for me to create something out of nothing than to take a sample. But because, I mentioned loops earlier, I started using loops more, for the first time, several months ago. And so I guess that's kind of sampling in a way. So, I'm more open to it because of doing loops and better at it because of I'm using loops instead of being able to manipulate all the instruments and everything. Because I created the parts, now I have a loop that's the way it is, and I can't change that, for the individual parts. So, but sampling is not my main sound at all. So,
no, I got you. So, when it comes to you yourself and your production team, what do y'all have coming up next?
Well, I mentioned we're really working on getting our areas set up. He my other partner AB, he doesn't stay in Jacksonville. He's actually in Dothan, Alabama, because that's where he teaches. So we're about 4 hours apart. But we're trying to get our individual home studios set up so that way we can do the streaming and add that element to what we got going on. And we're looking for some local events, like they just had one recently. Where they had some local beat battles, and we're kind of looking to step out into the area and get involved in that way and just kind of mingle and network with other musicians and artists and meet people that way. So that's what we're looking for next, now that we've really felt like we've established the music identity and the online presence. Now we want to do the streaming and the tutorials type videos online, and then just kind of step out into the scene and work with more people.
That's it. All right, man. Tell the people how they can find you.
So if you're on Instagram, it's Beat Machine Productions. It's beat_machine_productions. Our website is beatmachineproductions.com. YouTube, Beat Machine Productions. So there's many ways to find us. Same thing on SoundCloud and Facebook. So you'll see our logo on all those whenever you drop by. So
that's it.
Just hit us up.
Man. Well, thank you for coming on the show. Thank everybody for watching, man. Slayer, LaShawn Mosley, I appreciate it, man, and I'll check back in with you to see what you got going on.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Whoa, wasn't that a good show tonight? Very good show. Thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for always coming back to the channel. Y'all make sure that y'all always subscribe to the channel. Make sure y'all always donate to support the channel. And we'll see you in the next episode. So y'all make sure y'all come back. And thank you for tuning in to The Vibe Show.